When mounting the tire and the rim on an L1 model, on the left-hand side there's a spacer that has to go in on the axle, so make sure the spacer is on the left side, and then we mount the axle bolt from the right-hand side. The models earlier than the L1 are just the opposite. The spacer's on the right and you mount the axle from the left. So this is an L1 model. We're going to mount it the other way. Let's go ahead and slide the axle bolt through the rim. First, we're going to take some grease and grease up the axle, and then we're going to slide it through the rim, through the bearings. We have the axle mounted from the right side. Now we're going to lift the wheel. Now we have the axle through the bearings, and we have the threaded side out on the left-hand side. Now we can go ahead and mount the nut, and then we can tighten the axle. We can now mount the axle nut onto the axle. And then what we can do is torque this axle nut to 100 Newton meters. Then on each side of the fork there's 2 pinch bolts on each side, and so what we can do is then we can put the pinch bolts in and tighten those to 23 Newton meters. So let's go ahead and get the torque adapter. Now we're going to torque the axle nut to 100 Newton meters. And we put a pipe on the socket right so we can get some leverage. And we have the bolt to 100 Newton meters, and the front wheel has now been mounted. We have all of the swing arm and the frame bolts now tightened and torqued. Interesting, the way they work is there is a nut and a bolt. There is a lock nut, and there's an adjuster which pushes in on part of the engine there. There's a lock nut here. There's a hex nut here, and there's a nut on the other side that gets tightened. Down in there, another part of the engine mount is there is a nut, a lock nut, and an adjuster nut which pushes in on the motor. There is a 10mm bolt on each side of the frame toward the front of the frame. That is tightened. There's a pinch bolt here on this side, on the right hand side, that is tight. So now all of the frame has been tightened, and that will be it for this video. And in the next video we're going to go through all of the steps needed to mount the forks and the wheel, and torque and tighten, and the clip-ons, and torque and tighten everything up. So we'll see you next video.